and welcome to another episode of Turn Left. I am your host, Indiana's own Dana Black, coming to you live. Yes, all the way live from Black Pearl Studios, where we talk about Indiana politics from the left side of things. Y'all, it has been a very, very tough week for our American family members. We saw the tornadoes that were sweeping through the South, especially through Kentucky. We saw the devastation that was happening. December tornadoes. Let's be clear, December tornadoes. My heart goes out to all those families who are struggling. My heart goes out to families who lost members during that storm. The wrath of Mother Nature ain't no joke, and there's not a whole lot you can do other than to protect yourself. And I want to start off tonight. I want to talk about the candle factory that was leveled. We've seen reports where they had a 4-hour window from the first warning to the second warning. Some employees had asked to go, were asked to go home. Could they go home? And they were told that if they left, that they might be terminated. There are several people within that building who either heard it or it was said to them directly. Now, obviously, the organization is denying it. What else are they going to do? But I have a feeling that these employees wouldn't be lying about something so serious, because most of them talked about they really wanted to go home, but the people were still working. They were working. Now, again, I live in Indiana. We grew up in Indiana. We know the Indiana drills. You're not supposed to be out driving when the tornadoes coming. We get that, but there was a 4-hour window where people could have made different decisions. I hope they get to the bottom of that, but more importantly, this speaks to why it is so important for organizations, for people to organize in certain businesses. This is a prime example, because had there been a union at that location, threatening termination for leaving during a natural disaster would have prevented anyone from being fired, and it wouldn't have scared them into thinking that they would be fired and maybe making decisions that were counter to their best interests or their family's best interests. This is why it's important that we support people who want to organize. We need to stand behind them. A lot of people talk about they don't want to be in unions because this and unions are corrupt and blah, 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 blah. But when you have businesses that are making life and death decisions and you have no recourse, I don't know what's more corrupt than that. So I know people are like, Dana, it was a natural disaster. Why are you politicizing this? Because people died. Having the right policies can save a life. Having the right people in place protecting you can save your life in the midst of a natural disaster. So I wanted to throw that out there. And it's scary to think that a loved one of yours could be in a location when we know a natural disaster is coming and then being threatened with termination when they want to go be with their loved ones. It's tragic. It's tragic. Hey, did y'all see what the Attorney General of New York is doing? She's following Gavin Newsom out in California. Texas, with your vigilante, anti-choice legislation preventing women from making a choice about their body. They're doing the same thing with gun laws. Oh, it's golden. So you hate that we have to fight fire with fire, but that's what you got to do. When you want to say that one constitutional right can be taken away, then all of them can be taken away. And hopefully the Supreme Court will just strike down all of these going around the judicial system, going around the Constitution. All of this is wrong. So keep up the fight, New York and California. We in the Midwest, we with you. We know that'll never fly in Indiana, because we already know that they're working on legislation right now that's very similar to Texas's law. So you keep doing what you're doing. Hopefully we can get the Supreme Court to realize that having vigilante policies are not what we want in the United States. And finally, the email or the text messages are coming out. All the text messages are coming out now, baby. Did you see Jim Jordan? He came on. He was like, "Oh yeah, it was me," but they took it out of context. No, dog. No, they didn't. They played the whole thing. All these texts. Hey, Marjorie Taylor Greene is getting nervous. You see how nervous she looked in the galleries last night? The truth is coming out. The truth is coming out. And then, of course, our clown of a congressman out of District 3, Jim Banks, wants to call everybody liars, projecting. Want to tell everybody that we Democrats are trying to take stronghold, to strong arm everybody, projecting, deflecting. You know that's your behavior, sir. That's not what we do as Democrats. But you know what? Y'all gonna get found out. People gonna be like, they did what? They said who? We now know that this thing was being coordinated from the day after the election. We know, and we have evidence. Unfortunately, we don't have enough Republicans out there that have the guts to stand up to the attempted tearing down of our democracy. We don't have, they're not even, like, it kills me to listen to these dudes, like, talk about who's a real American and, Josh Hawley talking about his manhood. Somebody done emasculated him. Now he got to talk about his manhood and what we need to do to prop up his manhood. All of these dudes are punks. They are worried about some 70-something-year-old orange dude. I ain't never been scared of an orange dude. But they are. They are nervous. They are nervous as heck. And these text messages coming out, come on, January 6th Commission, keep bringing that stuff out. And maybe by the time Jim Banks is on the ballot again, we might be able to get Stevens in there in District 3. We got to support him. Make sure that he knows. Send him some money, y'all. Yeah, I had him on the show already. Send him some money so that you guys can get rid of Jim Banks and all the rest of those clowns that are okay with an insurrection and a coup. Because that's what the heck has been happening. You know what I'm saying? So there's a whole lot going on. I want you guys to understand we are now at the tail end of the year. And I know everybody's winding down for the holidays and spending time with family and friends. But you know what? I wanted to tap into you again to this week to talk about the importance of supporting candidates who are going to be running for office in the 2022 cycle. It is not enough for us to sit around and complain about Jim Banks or complain about Walorski or complain about Pence, but we have to get up and do something about it. Now, not everybody will knock doors. Not everybody can. Not everybody is super tech savvy to do data. Not everybody can. Not everybody wants to make phone calls. Maybe you're the check writing type. Maybe you're the kind that wants to donate to help candidates because they need that money too. Y'all, tonight, I'm really kind of lucky. The work that I get to do in Indiana gets me in a lot of different places. And tonight I have a brilliant mind on what it is to look at campaign finance differently. From Better Indiana, David Anderson joins us tonight. David, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Dana. It's a pleasure to be here. And I want to clear up: is this officially the holiday special version of Turn Left?
Well, so I had planned on this being the last show of the year, but I had a candidate reach out to me wanting to know if they could come on a little earlier. So I'm actually going to have one more show next week. I know.
That's fair, because usually, though, sometimes the holiday special is in that December 16th. You're about my age. We used to circle the calendar when the Peanuts Christmas show was going to be on the 16th or whatever it was. It's always kind of the target date for a good Christmas show.
Absolutely.
Just please don't make me sing. I'm not singing.
I wouldn't do that to us. I can't sing either, so I'm not going to do it. In fact, we even had our at work today. They had their holiday breakfast and lunch. So one side of the office had breakfast and the warehouse team had lunch. And so you're right. The 16th, the middle of the month is whenever, because everybody goes on vacation next week, right?
That's right.
And everybody going to be in the office. So they had to get it in. So David, tell the people who you are and where you come from.
Okay, I'm a Zionsville, Indiana resident. Been a longtime Northwest Side Indianapolis person. Pike High School graduate, and went to Indiana Kelley School of Business. So I've been around Indiana for a long time. Did a little tour of duty down in Evansville, and spent a lot of time staying home with the kids. Put 600,000 miles on 2 different minivans, and so I tell a lot of people now I'm a retired minivan driver. So.
There's nothing. 600,000 miles. 300 on
two two
each or
Hon-
600 on each?
three 300 on each.
Wow.
300 two Honda Odysseys. It's my plug for Honda Odyssey.
Okay, Honda
I'm not I'm
Odyssey.
not wearing I'm not wearing a patch like a race car driver, but if I was, it'd be Honda Odyssey.
Absolutely.
So I'm in Zionsville through three kids, the youngest of which is in college, and kind of once the youngest had a driver's license and a credit card, I had a lot more free time on my hands. So that kind of paired up nicely with 2016, which was not a great year for us politically.
No.
So I decided that I would work with a couple other folks here in Zionsville. We saw kind of a need for um, trying to raise some money for candidates that would come out of the increased enthusiasm after the Trump election. And we worked with good folks like Andy Piquel, Boone County chair at the time, and Leanne Hulka, 5th District chair.
Dope.
Um, we, we said things are getting better as far as energy and enthusiasm in a lot of different ways. You know, people are coming. Women for Change is happening. Boone County Voices for Change, Hamilton County um, Young Democrats, and those sort of things were gaining momentum and speed. And the county parties were getting kind of revitalized. We're getting more precinct chairs and spots. But we kind of looked around and said, well, where's the financial support going to be for those candidates when they do emerge? And we felt like a state and local PAC was the thing to do. We we feel like kind of closer to the grassroots at the bottom of the kind of the food chain was more of a chance to help candidates who really needed it. There's a lot of focus already at the top, and we thought that we could kind of create something that would help people win elections at the local level. So that's what we started to do. We were hoping that we were neophytes at the time, and we were hoping that we'd join start working with tons of other groups that were just like us, and then we kind of saw there was a little bit of a vacuum at that. There
Mm-hmm.
wasn't as many folks doing it as possible, which was um, frustrating in some ways, but also an opportunity for Better Indiana to try and have a positive impact on that. We started with the idea that in the suburbs was a place that we could push the blue of Marion County out into more competitive districts. And that's actually the first time we met you was at our very first kickoff. I'm happy to say that you've been with us since the very beginning. At our very first event, which was a J.D. Ford and Naomi Bechtel event, you were there, and
Absolutely.
as soon as we gave you the mic, it was the party was hopping. Then it was the best decision I made. Um,
I
so
know what to do with a microphone every now and then.
so that JD Ford district was kind of where we started, and we've expanded to there, and we just look for opportunities. Our center of gravity is kind of that, I'd say, maybe the Cary Hamilton district, and then
Okay.
pushing out in all directions from there. And we've tried each election cycle has been a little different, but we try to figure out where strategically the best uses are resources. We want to be good stewards of the financial donations and support we get to try and put it to places where we think it's most effective and can change outcomes of races.
See, and I like that because you're talking about those donut counties outside of Marion County, which we saw during redistricting that they wanted to do everything they could. They didn't want no parts of Marion County. They were like, "Oh no, let's get out of
Right.
here. It's blowing up." But it's really blowing up, honestly, in Boone, Hamilton, and Hendricks and Hancock counties. There's more activity out there. Are you seeing some, an extra level of enthusiasm where people may not be as vocal, they may not be as out front, but you're having these private conversations where they're like, "Yo, we see, we need to go in a different direction."
Yeah, I do. I think again, one of our first initiatives was to try and bring new people into the fold. A lot of I think that probably part of that suburban narrative was that there's some progressive value folks that maybe weren't as engaged at the local level, especially. They might not be your typical write a check to the state party or follow along with who their state rep is. Again, in a lot of times it's busy folks and I think too with the way our news media has changed, I think it's almost easier to know that, Sarah Gideon's running against Susan Collins in Maine and
Yeah.
write your check to support that because that's kind of all our news is national. The saying that used to be that all politics was local. There's an element now that it's very all politics is national because that's the way a lot of people are consuming their news is that way. So again, I think what we want to try and do is bring new people and some money that was maybe sitting on the sidelines, at least as far as it goes as local local races go. Try and get people engaged. I'd like to try to have people know who their state reps are, state house rep, state senate rep. We've seen elections. Everybody says elections are important. It matters, and so I do think that it's changing in the suburbs. We've got a Democratic mayor in Zionsville now, which is
Everybody
I
knows
would have
who
never
Mayor
have thought.
Emily is. Come on now, everybody.
Right,
Woo-wee. I'm actually having her
I would have.
and Mayor Hodges on a show together as these two amazing Democratic mayors. It's coming up in another month or so. But you know what? You brought up a good point. You brought up the fact that there was money sitting on the sidelines where people may or may not want to donate to the state party. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? Some people just don't want to be associated with the party, but they still believe in the values. And I think it's great that you're offering an alternative for them, so they don't. Because some people don't. I mean, how many? Especially these young people, they are not saying that they're Democrats. They're not saying that they're Republicans, but they still believe in certain candidates that have that value system. How have you been able to fine tune that? And then what are you hearing from some of the party folks? Because Hoka's party, and you talked about the Young Dems, those are party. But how are you managing to coordinate that?
Well, I like to think of it as playing the Better Indiana plays a niche role in the overall big picture, and kind of one of the things I've heard is the talk of referring to it as a healthy political ecosystem. And for Indiana to have a healthy political ecosystem, we need a better we need Democrats, and it's not just a state party thing. And I want to be clear that we're supportive of the state party. We work with them. We talk to them. We're not trying to, everybody's trying to fundraise. So I
Right,
mean,
right.
everybody's fundraising. I don't feel like Better Indiana's trying to cannibalize anybody else's fundraising. We say, give to your county party, give to your candidates that you like, give to the party, and then if you've got anything left over, give to Better Indiana, and we'll try to find a good place to take that. So I feel like what we want to do is contribute in a way that makes for that healthier ecosystem. And what we're going to do is define our niche and help in the ways we can. And I think that's a lot of it's getting candidates. People like you asked about how you fine tune the message. People do like candidates. They want to give to candidates. It's hard to say, Dana, give me some money and trust me to do something smart with it. It's much better for us to say, Dana, here's JD Ford. You may not know him, but here's what he's about. And when they see and hear somebody like JD, then they're ready to support him, even if they're not in his district. And I think that's kind of one of the things that Better Indiana can do is try to get. Most candidates try and fundraise in their district,
Mm-hmm.
and we can help try to get people to support impressive candidates with a chance to win who may not be in their district. Because when it gets down to it, whether you're in JD Ford's district or not, he's serving your interests. So
Absolutely, and they're the 11 of them. They have an uphill battle because that state house is special, man. It's special, and they are fighting hard. But one of the other things that's coming up, and we're seeing a lot of activity, especially in the suburban areas, are the school board races that are coming up. I know that
Mhm.
we've talked about that you guys are definitely working to get some folks in the state house, but will you engage with some of those school board races and help fundraise for that as well?
Yes, we're involved. We were involved in one in the Zionsville schools in 2019. For the most part, we kind of liked it better when school board races weren't as partisan as they were. But yeah, I don't. I think that ship has sailed,
Gone.
and now I think what we want to do is try to make sure that people who step up to run, and I guess I want to say that that's in my 4 years, the people that I find most impressive are the people like yourself who stepped up to run for office. It's not an easy thing to do. And when those people do it, we ought to have, again, that system there that makes it that makes it not easy, but start them off with all the help they
Yeah,
can.
so they
And
feel
they're
supported, right? They,
right.
listen, as a candidate, I knew what was going to happen when I ran, right? And I also knew what leadership told me. My thing was, okay, you ain't got to really support me, just don't get in my way. I'll be fine. But you're right, there are some candidates that just need to feel supported, that fellow Democrats are there lifting them up, or fellow progressives or fellow liberals, whatever, are there lifting them up.
Right. I agree. And it's just we need to do a good job of recruiting candidates. Everybody talks about recruiting candidates, but I think there's a that that secondary step is that after you've recruited them, you need to kind of support them for a while. You need to stand them up in the parlance of kind of an entrepreneurial startup is, or maybe in your IT world, right? You
Yeah,
you gotta get something from concept to getting rolling. And so just recruiting candidates isn't enough. I think we got to give them some resources to make that first in the end, it'll come down to it's a lot of hard work for the candidate, and
absolutely.
nobody makes it easy, but whatever help we can give them at the beginning, and I think that's one of Better Indiana's roles is to try and be there, kind of seed money at the beginning to try to help somebody that we identify as a good as a good candidate in a good contested race.
Absolutely. And see, the other thing is, okay, so you're making these races competitive by providing resources and other wraparound services for these candidates. And even if they aren't successful that first go around, now they have name recognition, right? They have name recognition. People know who they are, and then they decide to run again. They have a much better chance of success. I think that your concept is so dope. I believe in what you guys are doing because we can't expect one entity to do everything, right? We have
Right.
organizations like Hope and Thomas. I can't think of Thomasina's. I'm having a Hope and Eight. I know that part, but we have organizations that are working on voter registration. We have organizations that are working on training and getting precinct committee people, but we got to have somebody that's looking at those other organizations that are looking at money. Tell us about you have a finance background, correct?
Yes, sort of. It's more of an entrepreneurial background with some startup businesses and stuff like that I was doing prior to my minivan driving days. I've got an MBA from Kelly School of Business, where my brother is a econ professor there, and so I lean on him for more of the finance, a lot of the finance stuff.
But I
But
think the reason why I ask is because I think it is so important that we, as and you and I were talking about it, and I hope we go into it a little bit more about how Democrats look at money.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've got an affinity for our pet issues. I mean, I think that's one of the it's not, I won't say it's a negative, but sometimes it hurts on the election side of things that Democrats are quick to, I think in general, write a check to Hoosier Environmental Council or Planned Parenthood or the ACLU, Moms Demand Action, whatever our passion is. There's always plenty of ways to financially support that, and um, that's good, but then I'm not sure it always connects as efficiently as
Mm-hmm.
possible to
Mm-hmm.
winning elections.
Yeah.
Um, I use one of our endorsed candidates that unfortunately lost in 2020, Don Westerhausen, up in the
Yeah.
South Bend area. Don was a great candidate. I was real happy to have Better Indiana support him. Don is a physician, cardiologist. He had run before, he ran again, and both times he lost by less than 500 votes. And it
Wow.
just hurts me to not have figured out a way to get a guy like Don across the finish line. And I always feel like that's the one that hurts. And how is we, again, going back to that system thing, how can everybody who cares about Indiana politics work hard? I know you never know that somebody's going to lose by 500.
Right.
So it's hard to make those calls ahead of time, but I think that's the goal, is to work together to get the money to the candidate that can get them over the finish line. So that was a tough one. Trying to think, what was the I went
I,
off on a tangent. Oh, I know what it
I
was.
was just thinking
So
about my interview with Don as you were talking. I'm like, yeah, I remember him, and I remember how passionate he was, and oh, he was a doctor in the middle of a pandemic. I mean, it's just all the
oh,
things.
he'd be perfect. He'd be so good at the state house. And you talk about wanting quality candidates there to be public servants. I mean, he was right out of the you know
Playbook.
uh, right out of the playbook. And even and one of the things I was shocked at, he lost to Dale Devon, who outraised him roughly $400,000 to $200,000. So Don lost by 500 votes to a guy who had twice as much money. And Dale Devon's campaign filing had, I'm not going to be exact, but I believe it was 19 individual citizens is all. He raised $400,000 from from only 19 individuals. The rest of the money came from, 300 and probably 98,000 of it came from groups, whether it's
Uh huh.
lobbying groups or other politicians or PACs. And I mean, I can't believe. I mean, when you were a candidate, when you could have got checks from 19 people at one event. And the
Exactly.
fact that he can raise $400,000 and beat a candidate like Don, without basically getting any support from
His
a
community.
private citizen,
Yeah.
is, yeah, the community. He's just they're not. It's clear that he's not representing
I was
the
just gonna say, who
community.
is he
He,
representing?
he
Because he sure as
he's
heck getting
representing the
his
he's
interest.
representing the $399,000 worth of that $400,000. And that's just a shame.
It
So,
is, and
and,
his
and sometimes I feel bad about it from Better Indiana standpoint. I mean, we're a PAC, so we're kind of we're not citizens either. So that criticism might sound a little hypocritical, but on the other hand, we got to try and find ways to get the money to the right people, and raise more money. And you don't and we've seen people win without, I mean, being outraised. So it's not the end all be all, thank goodness. But it is hard to get outraised 2-1 and win elections.
well, and on top of that, he raised that money, 19 individuals and a whole bunch of other big organizations. But see, that's what we need, right? I mean, even though we all want to take money out of politics, David, people that I don't know. You're running in different circles. You're definitely connecting with. I'm running in different circles, and it's like sometimes. If I'm not connected with those types of individuals who can write the max out check, then I need someone who does. And there's not anything wrong with that. And that's what those partnerships that we're talking about. If we already have an organization that's out there, knocking doors and registering voters, we got to have that same emphasis on, okay, let's raise this money. And then if the party is focused in on the statewide races, then we can come down into the local and state house races and council races and things of that nature and really put an emphasis and highlight these candidates and then give them the resources or support them in the way they need. I think that people have this misconception that we're supposed to all be in our silos and not actually work together and come together because, real talk, this is not a 70-30 state, right? This is not a 70-30
Right.
state. It is maybe more 45-55, but that's not what's in our state house, right? And it's
Correct.
not, yes, gerrymandering has a lot to do with it. Yes, it does. But the other part is that we are not connecting with each other. We're not having the David Andersons and maybe some of the other organizations aren't talking to each other and combining those resources. And that's what so 16, I think, was the start of, okay, wait, there's more than one way to skin a cat in Indiana. Yes, we have the party structure, but we also can do things in a gazillion different ways. And I think it's so important for people to understand that no, we don't have to work in a silo. And by the way, if you want to donate to Better Indiana, make sure you click on the link, and donate to his organization. And I promise you, he's going to put that money in places where it's supposed to go. You talked about also doing some other wraparound services for candidates, not just raising money. Talk about some of those programs that Better Indiana does.
Okay, thanks. I was hoping we get to this because we're really proud of our what we refer to it as our Build the Bench program. And Build the Bench, of course, we do endorsements. We go through, we'll endorse candidates, but the Build the Bench program is with an eye on the future. And again, it's helping. Um, Again, the school board candidates, town council. I'll mention a couple in 2019. Kind of our Build the Bench program supported folks like Miles Nelson, first Democrat to win a city council
North Central
seat
classmate,
in
class of
Carmel,
88.
and Jocelyn Vare in Fishers. I'm going to ignore the North Central comment because
Don't hate.
there's the Red Devils.
Don't hate. Don't
We're,
hate.
I'll try not to. But Jocelyn, I think Jocelyn's an excellent case of you've got a better chance to win at the next level when you've won a race at the town council
Absolutely.
level. And Jocelyn ran a great race in 2019, and very excited about her running for state senate. I think that's the kind of thing. I know folks like her and Miles and town count. Kristen Jones was another one. Kristen Jones, Allie Brown, Keith Potts, city council. County council seats where we feel like we try to help out those people to build the bench because they're our future
Absolutely.
legislators. I mean, they're elected officials now, but they're on their way to when we're a little older and grayer, Dana, we're going to be relying upon them to take care of us. So, and they'll do great. But some of the things we do for that, we've done. We'll provide kind of pooling of resources for video, helping them with some of the costs, social media, advertising. We're just starting a project to put together some resource toolkit for understanding finance, campaigning, budgeting, chart of accounts. A lot of times, your typical first time candidate also has a first time campaign manager, first time treasurer. We're working to try and develop something where a first time treasurer gets a quick get them up to speed real quick on how to set up a chart of accounts, what you have to keep track of, what you have to file, do those kinds of things to help the candidates. One less thing for the candidate to worry about, and maybe help them recruit a treasurer because that's a key component of your campaign staff.
Absolutely.
So those are the kinds of things we do on Build the Bench, is try and help support local and municipal candidates.
I think that finance training is critical. I know. So I was a DIY candidate, but I did have a treasure.
Uh-huh.
I went out and recruited my best friend, a Total Solutions, Crystal Allen. If you need help with your money, be you a small business or a large business, you need to reach out to a Total Solution. But she, I literally was like, Your whole job is to keep me out of jail. Because because campaign finance, especially in 2016, was like it was like the topic, right? And people are we see what Senator Braun did. We're starting to see where we don't know what happened. We can't find the guy that did the thing, but the Daily Beast found him in like 15 minutes. Braun basically lied and did all kind of bad stuff. So one of the first things I did was like, yo, give me somebody that I can give them the finance manual and they can figure it out, right? Because I knew
Right.
it's above my pay grade. I can do social media, I can do IT stuff, I can get my website together, but I'm gonna need her to count
Yeah.
them coins. And that's
You
what she,
bring it in, she's got to count them, right?
yeah, I mean, she did. I mean, it's the little things that ease to make your campaign a whole lot better, and allow you to go out, knock the doors, do the show up at the fundraisers, and let somebody else manage the finances and doing the reports. The reporting was probably the thing that I was really happy that she took care of, filing those
Yeah.
reports with the Secretary of State.
Right.
I'm so glad she did that.
And a lot of it's not that complicated. It's just hoop jumping that we need. It should hopefully we'll be able to give candidates something that makes it easier. It takes one less thing off of them to do. So excited about that. We're excited about what we've done with Build the Bench. I think I look forward to 2022. I think it's gonna be a good year.
Oh my God,
I was at
it's gonna be an amazing year. I mean, honestly, I think our goal is to make sure that people don't stay home, right? That we
right.
cannot have the apathy. But I think with the networks that we're building in Indiana right now, I mean, so from a media perspective, I'm working with a couple of guys up in Fort Wayne with My Labor Radio and Gary Snyder with the Snide Report and Indiana Talks. I'm working down south with my guy Miguel Hampton. I'm gonna be doing some stuff with Deb Chubb up in Elkhart. I mean, it's so from a media and getting the information out perspective, it's there. I've talked about Hope and she's gonna kill me. Thomasina is gonna kill me because I cannot think of the name of her organization down in District 8, where we got the voter reg stuff going on, and then of course we have Hoosier Women Forward, which is grooming women leaders to take on all types of roles in this policy making process. It's not just about being a candidate, but being behind the scenes, maybe being a political director or being a campaign manager. There's all of these different things that are coming, and it's not all on the party, and it doesn't have to be all on the party. Of course, the party structure is important, but it's not all on them. And each of us with whatever skill sets, finance, talking, whatever skill set, we can make changes and make it happen in Indiana. And I'm with you. I believe it's good stuff is coming.
I do too. I heard I was at an event last night where Tom McDermott was there giving his stump speech, and I think he was leaning into some issues that I think are going to work well for Democrats in 2022, and it was things like legalization of cannabis and being protective of women's health care rights, and if they do overturn Roe v. Wade next summer, I think it's important that Democrats understand that elections have consequences, and this is something that we need to show up in November to try to protect women's rights.
Absolutely.
Um, I think that Todd Young voting against not bringing back $9 billion in infrastructure to the state on a bill that he originally wanted to co-sponsor and then stepping away from it is something that doesn't play well.
Paul.
So it's just going to be tough to win a statewide race, but I do think that there could be some momentum for issues that work well for Democrats. So I'm optimistic. I'm always cautiously optimistic. It's
Absolutely.
one of the questions I had for you, Dana.
Uh-huh.
How do you what's the key to? I've always seen you as being a joyful warrior in this battle, and I do think it's kind of tough because it is being in the political world in Indiana as a Democrat, it can sometimes be like pounding your head against the wall. So what's how do you how do you stay enthusiastic and not get pessimism get the better part of you? Help me with this.
There's several things. Several things. One, I started this journey much older, right? I think when you're younger, you really don't have the same worldview that you do when you get older, and you haven't had as much experience with humans. So humans, excuse me, humans are gonna human, and I'm accustomed to humans just doing what they do, and I'm not shocked, surprised, put out when humans do things that they do, and it's something you have to learn. It's something you have to experience. The thing that keeps me going, and the thing that fuels me more than anything else is that I want to elect Democrats because Democrats typically are willing to write policies that'll improve lives of humans. No, not every Democrat gets it right. No, and some of these Democrats out here have not been doing what they should be doing. And I'm just gonna put it out there, but I'm gonna take my chances with a Democrat every day of the week than I will with, again. How do you trust a Senator Todd Young when he co-sponsors and goes on like a tour talking about this infrastructure bill and then pulls out and doesn't vote for it? Or the Jim Bankses who doesn't vote for it but goes back to his district and talks about how much money he's bringing in? Or same thing with Sparks, Representative Sparks. She talks about all the money she's bringing in, but you didn't vote for it. You voted against everything that these people are needing. But so I believe that if I continue to stay positive, and my passion is I wake up in the morning trying to figure out how I can elect more Democrats. The second thing, the biggest thing, second thing is pretty big. I go down to DC every year for the Victory Institute International Conference.
Okay.
So for
That's
5 days, I'm literally inundated with, it's an LGBTQ plus, bipartisan conference, and there are a few gay Republicans that do come and libertarian. In fact, I had a chance to listen to a trans libertarian. Let them work that out, right? But what happens is I see the struggles that our community as the LGBTQ plus community has around the country, but I also see the successes. And you see, every year we're electing more and more gay people, lesbians, transgender people, non-binary, whatever the letter is in the alphabet soup that they down with. They're getting elected to office to write policies that impact their communities, right? At every level. So I know that if a trans woman can be elected to the city council in West Virginia, I can flip some seats in Indiana. It's just us believing in ourselves. I know Robin Winston said something. No, was Robin Winston or was it Hill, Barron Hill? I can't remember. One of the two old schoolers though, right? They both said we have to believe we're winners. A lot of times in Indiana, we don't believe that we're winners. I know I'm a winner. I may not have won a race, a campaign, but I'm a winner because I show up and I keep trying. And the other thing is, I'm used to rejection. I'm used to it. So what's one more? It's not gonna break me. Like I struggle. I struggle with, and I'm learning to be better with it because everybody don't think like me. I struggle with people who succumb to rejection. I struggle with that. People don't know how to deal with that. But there's not an aspect of my life or an aspect of my being that some part of that hasn't been rejected. Heck, I was rejected at birth. I'm an adopted child. So, I mean, and yay for me being adopted. But my point is like some people can't handle rejection. So it's my job to lift them up. It's my job to say, okay, it's going to happen. It's so that's enough about you interviewing me.
okay. But that is one of the on my side of it. Over the last 4 years, I met just a ton of people like yourself that are working hard for it, and it makes it all worthwhile. The kind of the friendships that I've made both here in Zionsville and across the state of people that just doing good. We endorsed Mike Andrade. who
Yes.
first year rep, and he's been so good. I mean, his follow through and communication and the work he's doing with such enthusiasm is just incredible, and it inspires. When you know that folks like J.D. Ford and Emily Styron, Mitch Gore, and some others that are now in office, and elections have consequences. Even that school board race I mentioned, I would have never thought that 3 years ago, whatever, that having somebody on the school board that believed in science was as important as it turned out to be.
Exactly.
That every race matters, and putting those good folks in office is important. I'm really
Absolutely.
excited.
Go ahead. I'm
I'm really
excited.
excited. Both Terry Curry was a good friend of Better Indiana and
Yeah.
helped out a lot. And I really Emily Schrock in the prosecutor's office is our secretary, and Sujata um, is our chairperson. So I want to make sure that Better Indiana is not a David Anderson thing. We've had lots of help over the years.
Oh, excellent.
Christy Jones and Courtney Doran. There's been lots of people that helped. Betty Cochran was a huge help to the organization.
Big ups.
Um, Jake Bonifield. There's a lot of people that have been instrumental in helping us, and it's good to have those people working with us, and
Absolutely.
always looking for others that want to help out. If this is the kind of thing that appeals to somebody out there in your listening audience that says that's the kind of thing where my resources, my talents might help, that's what we want to. That's what we would love to have them help out.
And that's the
I
whole
was gonna,
goal. That's the whole
yeah,
goal. Is like, what one of these conversations on one of these turn lefts with all of these organizations that I've talked to this year, somebody is going to trigger something, one of these is going to trigger something in somebody to get involved. We can't stay home, right? It's, we they tried to steal it last time. They're making the all of the voting rights bills that are coming out of these state houses isn't just necessarily about making it more difficult for people to vote. They're literally writing legislation to determine whether or not your vote will count. Well, sure, come on in and vote. We ain't counting it. I, all of these things are so important. And if we sit back and continue to let things happen to us and not get involved, then we're gonna get what we deserve. We're gonna get it.
yep,
And right, and democracy is fragile, especially when people with self-serving intentions are put in places to make real decisions about everybody's life, right? And I don't understand
yep.
why that doesn't fire people up. Like I'm getting fired up over here now. It's like, how could we not, you know, how could we not take this seriously? I mean, I know people are serious about their Jordans. I know they serious about their music. I know they serious about their ride, their car, they how do you not realize that there is policy attached to every one of those things that you are passionate about? And somebody somewhere is gonna, who is counter to who you are, is gonna be writing a policy to make it more difficult for you to enjoy whatever it is that you're going to enjoy. Why? How does that not get you fired up? Yeah. If becoming, getting involved in this type of organization where they're literally offering financial support to some of our smaller races where they're not getting all the media hype, they may not get all the attention. If you want to get down with this, hit my man up. And by the way, I'm gonna do a fundraiser for Prosecutor Mears too.
I just jotted his name down. I was getting to him there because
Oh,
he's one of the guys that inspires me for 2022. And again, I just think that of all the elected officials, he's got the power capacity right now to do a lot of progressive work. I mean, I would argue that since most of our folks in the assembly are in the minority, that they don't have as much power as Ryan does to
right.
actually get stuff done. And the work the prosecutor's office is doing is just phenomenal, in my opinion. And um, again, it's just another example of progress. I wanted to follow up too. You mentioned um, we were talking about progress and how sometimes it's slow and you don't see it.
Mm-hmm.
I saw Jared Polis, who's the governor of Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
He was featured prominently in one of the books we read when we were researching what we should do for Better Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
It's called The Blueprint on how
Mm-hmm.
Colorado went from red to blue,
Yeah, I have that book.
and he got involved, and he wanted things done differently. And he talked about breaking down some of those silos, and again, it was a very influential piece for us, and kind of what we thought we would be a contributing role in that kind of blueprint, whatever the Indiana blueprint. I think we're still kind of working on
We
what
are.
that would be,
We are.
and but and I'm sure you noticed that, but it wasn't much national news. Is that Jared Polis, as governor, went and got married to his
Exactly.
significant other, and again, that's something that
That's
4 or 5
good.
years ago, yeah, it's very good, and we wouldn't have, it would have been more of an issue then, and it's good that it's not an issue now. And I think that sometimes we're slow. I guess that's part of my answer too to how you stay joyful is that after the mountains, there's always more mountains. That no.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And somebody's got to do this work. Somebody got to do it. Somebody has to be ready to fire up the troops. And it just so happens that the divine gave that gift to me. Right. And I'm trying to use my gifts for good and my powers for good because I remind people, and my girlfriend tells me I shouldn't say it, but me and I share a birthday with the Orange Menace.
Ooh,
We
I'm
actually,
sorry
yeah,
to
we
hear that.
share. Our birthdays are the same day, and we both have the gift of gab, and we both have the ability to move a crowd. Whether you like them or not, we both have those gifts. I just use my powers for good. He uses his for an insurrection. I mean, it's like that. So the other thing that I think I wanted to hit on real quick, how do people, you talked about a lot of the candidates that you endorsed. What is the process for a candidate to get in touch with you, or how should a candidate get in touch with you if they're seeking Better Indiana's endorsement?
Yeah, they're happy to talk to them. They can contact us through our website, which is betterindianapac.com. Um, the the process is we try to do a lot of the work ahead of time. Again, because there's more great candidates than there are great races,
Yeah,
which is again, it's another one of the kind of the downsides of
I'm glad you said that. Yeah.
we we want to we again, our fiduciary responsibility is to use our money to help win great races. So we do a lot of the endorsement process actually focuses on analyzing the race, not the candidate, which
Okay.
is unfortunate because we'll have
Okay.
a lot of people that will say, this is who I am and what I believe, and why the person I'm running against is needs to be beat, and all that may be true, but it's tough. And I know there's also an argument we got to run everywhere and we got to lose better and all, and I believe in all that, but again, everybody's got to be in their correct or in stay in their lane or contribute in the ways they can. And our way to contribute is to try to narrow it down to the races that are competitive. Again, it's how do you get the guy to win by 500 votes instead of lose by 500 votes, and again, that's not all races. There's a role to be there's a need to support everyone, but again, our endorsement process is probably more about looking at the contest.
Okay.
Not to say that we don't, but then after qualifying the races, we do then we have a interview process. Again, we don't have litmus tests about issues because every race is going to be different,
Mm-hmm.
and what it takes to win in a district around Indianapolis is going to be different than it takes to win in a district and around Mishawaka or
Yep.
wherever we might
Yep.
be. So it's not always about, and that was kind of one of the Colorado blueprint um, lessons is that try and stay away from being the having a focus on what the candidates lists of criteria are for what they believe in.
Yep.
You gotta win races. We're a little bit more probably Machiavellian in that way than I'd like to talk about. It'd be more fun to talk about sport and everyone, but we got to figure out where we can win and how we change the makeup of our elected officials.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely, because you have finite resources, right? It's not like,
right,
I mean, well, I guess unless you're the evil empire,
very
you
very
keep
finite.
they keep churning out money, but we have a finite amount of resources, and we have to be strategic in how we do that. And there's still, for some of those candidates, that are in those very very tough races where they've been gerrymandered to hell, and they're really configured to be an 80-20 race, because there's some of those for
Right,
Democrats too, like five,
right,
right?
right,
Um, we have to be strategic in our resources and try to chip away where we can. And then when we start having those successes, and we're writing policies that are benefiting Hoosiers, there will be more.
right,
There will be more. But we gotta win first, right? We gotta
right.
win. I some of my
So
more
that's kind of as a follow up to the endorsement issue. Is one of the things that we decided is that we aren't endorsing all the great candidates. And there are some organizations, and again, I think it's the right thing for some to do, is to give their endorsement as a seal of approval with a $500 check or something like that, so that people know that this organization thinks this candidate is the preferable candidate, and they support them, which is great. But our our mission is to give substantial financial help to a fewer set of candidates. So I just kind of want to throw that out there as candidates want support. It's our we're kind of more of a behind the scenes try to get significant dollars to fewer candidates. So
but I mean, set the
that's maybe the
expectation.
hardest thing to do.
Yeah, but it's
Yeah,
okay. You're setting the expectation. That's the most important thing, right? Because there are a lot of people who are still trying to learn the process. And when they don't know the process, they get disappointed when they don't get what they thought they were going to get. You're setting the expectation. And that's, to me, you can't do anything better than that, right? You're letting the folks know, listen, this is what we're doing, this is how we're doing it. And this is great because you're being strategic, just to toss, throw money up in the air like that. Did you see, ADD, did you see you may not have, but the hockey event where they had a carpet and they threw a five
yeah,
thousand $1 bills out there, and they were making the teachers run around and that was horrible on so many levels. But you're not doing that. You're not just throwing money up and making it a free for all. You're being strategic in how you help candidates get over the hump, win some races, and flip some seats. It's just, I think it's amazing. And David, you and your team are doing fabulous stuff. I know you and I are going to collaborate and do some things. I'm looking forward to it for one reason more than anything else, and that's so I can learn, because you have a lot for me to learn from. You're brilliant. I love talking to you. I appreciate you sharing your knowledge with me, someone who's financially illiterate, but you're teaching me, and you're teaching me how to do things the right way. And I wanted to just let you know that I'm looking forward to all the extra work that we're gonna do. Any events that you got coming
well,
up soon?
we don't. We're off a little bit because the holiday season. I think that we're looking at a couple of events after the first of the year. We're looking at something in kind of the western side of Carmel and JD Ford's Carmel district. Hoping to have an event. We had a great event up at Zionsville Hotel Tango, where we had the place was full, parking lot overflowing for both Better Indiana and Boone County Democrats and JD Ford, and it was just a great vibe. We'd like to do that again in JD's district in Carmel. We have a couple of events that we do every year. We do a Physicians for a Better Indiana, which will probably be a late March or maybe April event this year. And then we also do Attorneys for a Better Indiana. Well, those events will be coming up in the spring. So excited about those. And I just want to say thanks for letting us sharing your platform with Better Indiana, and also for all your support over the years. Like I said, you were there from the very beginning. You've always been, your enthusiasm and being a joyful warrior has always been an inspiration to me. And I'm just happy to try and tag along, hand you the mic and follow in that wake.
Well, after the first year, I'll be ramping back up again. I took this year to kind of like not do as much because there weren't any elections this year. I still did the work, just not as much. But yo, it's time to ramp up, get busy. I'm gonna start putting the miles back on my truck again. And getting back out there and doing what I do. So whatever I can do for Better Indiana, all you can do is ask. I'm there. I want to help.
Great. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, just want to be successful. All right. Indiana's own Dana Black. Man, these hours be going by fast when you're learning stuff. Listen, I have a show next week, and I'm bringing some more candidates. I know that you guys have been asking me about when I'm going to have the Senate candidates on, the U.S. Senate candidates. I've made the personal decision to not have them on until all of their signatures have been certified. Okay, once they've been certified, then I'll get them all scheduled. Okay, I know y'all like, well, dang, but it doesn't take you don't have to know their platform to get them certified, right? But once they're certified, I will start scheduling those candidates because we want to know who our U.S. Senator candidate is going to be. But if they're not on the ballot, there's no sense of me interviewing them, right? There's no sense of me interviewing anybody that's not going to be on the ballot. We will interview. I will start scheduling those once the certification process is complete. So please know, I know about all the candidates. I've spoken to all of them on different occasions, and I know that they're putting in the work. But I'm gonna wait because I can interview a whole bunch of other people in the meantime to get you, that don't have to go through the certification process. So don't think I'm ignoring them. I'm going to get those U.S. Senate candidates. And how about the fact that Indiana's own is talking about she's going to get the U.S. Senate candidates on her show? I just want to throw that out there. Yo, Indiana's own Dana Black. Thank you so much for tuning in. I will holler at y'all next week.